meet you.
Nice to meet you. Emma Louise.
I know you all. The podcast together.
And this is my mum.
Hi, Mum.
And this is Keith, our friend and fellow investigator.
Hi.
And
I can see it.
Kate Houston.
Brilliant. I'm with Chris, producer, doing the sound tonight. Spencer, writer buddy of mine, and Sam on camera.
Thank you
so much for letting us come and. It was a sort of a flippant remark at the end of the podcast where I'd love to come and see it, and at the end I was like, do I really want to come and see it? No, I'm really so thankful for you letting us in here. So
where do you want to
happening. Yeah, where do you want to go next? Where do you want to go?
We're going to go in and we're going to go into the library.
Library? Mm-hmm. Lovely.
We are in the library now. This is at the front of the house. This room has a little bit of history with it. It is connected to the United Irishmen when they done the siege on the house. The Waller, the family that lived here at the time, the Waller family, John Waller and Sara Waller, they invited in their guest, Rev Hamilton, and they came in here and they were sitting down and they were having a conversation, and then they heard the upheaval outside. So when they looked, just the laneway that's at this other end, it was the back laneway they all came through, and they surrounded the whole house and they started to shoot through the windows. And at this stage, Hamilton, they wanted Hamilton, but Hamilton knew at this stage that they were coming for him. So he fled to the cellar, and as they shot through the windows in here, Sara Waller was unfortunately hit in the shoulder, and she was hit in the ear, and she bled. She ended up on the floor and crawled out to the hallway, and the servants then helped her down to the servants' quarters, and that's where she bled out and she died. And it was just a tragic night, and I do believe that this particular room holds a lot of that, the imprint of that tragic night, from what happened. As you'll see a gun on the wall during renovations of the outhouses. That gun was actually found within the wall, buried. We don't really know why it was buried there, if it was a murder weapon or what happened or why it was put in the wall.
Yeah, I took this gun, I took it into the museum in Derry just to find out if they could let me know where it was from or whatever, and they said it was from the early 1920s. It was a ladies' protection.
Oh wow!
It's
quite small. Put a handbag kind of size.
As you can see, it's very rusty. So, but they did ask, do you want me to give it a home? I said, no, it's coming back.
Find the speakers.
They wanted to,
But this particular room, it changes the atmosphere.
Yeah.
At times we would feel like there would be something that would be in here that would be moving around. And then there's times in it would just be nice, a nice atmosphere in it. Like it's actually quite warm in here tonight, when other nights it could be very cold. It really just through the whole house, the atmosphere changes. Yeah. But Keith, you want to tell me a bit about?
I did the visual here myself on my own. What came about was I mentioned to Emma and Lisa that I always wanted to do just sit around the house on my own and see if I can experience anything, because there's always just the investigations and stuff to get. And Lisa piped up and goes, if you want to do it, that's grand, we'll organise, you can do it this Sunday night, because it was kind of, Vincent was away and Victoria was away, so I had an opportunity just to sit about the house on my own. So we did it that Sunday night. It was kind of off the cuff sort of thing. I hadn't really anything planned, but I started off in here in the library, and I sat down just behind where you're at there now, and I sat there, and it was kind of grand. I was just sitting kind of chittering away to myself, kind of keeping myself busy. I was messaging Emma, and I was messaging my girlfriend at the time too, but I was very aware of a shadow over here in this corner, and I could see it kind of float downwards towards the floor. So I was always looking over here to see if anything was going on over here. But then the next thing I could see it popping up over the couch. You could see, because the light was on out here, so I could see the light breaking, and it was almost like something was peeping up over the couch, and it was just very curious why I, with a strange person, was just sitting there in the dark, and it was just, but it wasn't threatened in any way. I wouldn't feel scared or nothing, but I was very aware that I was being watched the whole time I sat there.
Can I just ask the four of you how are you feeling right now in this room?
I feel okay, but earlier on I felt very drained. My whole energy felt like it was just yesterday and this morning. I just felt like my energy was completely drained, like something was draining me. It could be something to do with this energy that's in the house that has these effects. From time to time, you know, earlier on whenever I came out from the hallway from the kitchen, I felt a bit dizzy.
Yeah.
So it just really depends. I think it could be just to do with that energy in that particular time that's around you.
What about the Wallers? What sort of standing had they in the community? Were they good people? Were they respected people? What do we know much about the Wallers prior to this horrible thing?
The Waller family were very respected. They were very respected in the community. John Waller was actually a reverend, but he actually was paralysed from his waist down due to an accident. So he relied a lot on his wife and their servant, Barney McCafferty. And they reckon that night, you know, that Barney, what we believe is he blamed himself from the United Irishmen getting past the gates, because that would have been one of his kind of roles, is closing up and sealing up the property to make it safe. And I think afterwards, you know, because, you know, Mrs. Waller was, unfortunately, she passed away on that night. It was so sad in the community. You know, all their followings and their friends, you know, there was obviously were all very upset, and I'd say Barney probably held that bit of guilt of that, how it happened that night. Now they did threaten to burn the house down of Reverend Hamilton, didn't give himself up, and as we go through the house I'll explain a bit what exactly happened on how his murder took place and where it took place. Each room has a story to tell. So that is only, in this room, that's only that kind of bit of that story with this particular room. But I do believe that kind of residual from that night of, you know, shots being fired through the room, the fear within, you know, Mrs. Waller, John Waller. It happened, 220 something years ago. So it's really hard. You know, it's like Chinese whisper through the years. Things change, and story as, you know, things is adding on to the story. So I was trying to find that, you know, that right bit of information.
I don't know what the reason was. We just seemed to have fallen in love with it. I'm actually local, so my own home place is just over the road. So we would have always heard the history of this house, and so me and my husband, before we were married, we came down the back lane one night. It was a summer's night. It was about 10 o'clock. We just thought we'd come down and just have a look to see what the story of the house like. And we were just sitting at the back gates. We were just in the car. When you see the back gates, they're just they're just narrow gates, and there's like one small gate beside the actual opening. It's like a walkway, and we were just sitting there, and it was 10 o'clock, and it wasn't quite dark, and next thing we just seen this big black dog. It just seemed to come up and came through, but it went straight through the gates, as if it just the side of the car and just totally disappeared. This big black dog. And the two of us looked at each other because we were just sitting there, and we were like, what was that? And so Vincent, he just put the car in reverse, and we went straight back up the lane. And when you come to the back of the lane, there's fields, and there's like a gateway, but there was like a rope tied in 3 knots on the back of from the gateway, and he just went straight through the rope. And we said we'd never go back there again. So I don't know why. I honestly don't know what actually. It was like as if the house drew us here. You know, and the house wasn't even for sale. It wasn't up for sale.
Really?
No, it wasn't. No.
The way that we've actually said it through the years, and somebody else has actually mentioned it to us. It's like you didn't choose the house.
The house
chose them. You know, so that seems.
And then Vincent. Then we just found out who owned the house. It was actually a priest. So Vincent and my mother-in-law went up and to talk to the priest, and he said he would sell it as long as we wouldn't knock the house, and we'd bring the house back.
Okay.
You know, so that's what we did then. We kind of that's why we kind of kept the house the way it was. We didn't knock anything, or, you know, we just kind of, as you can see here, when we did buy the house, it was in ruins.
That's why I remember the house. That's why I remember it. That's why it used to be what I remember it.
Because the house lie empty, like for instance, that's the dining room.
Yep.
It had no roof.
Oh wow.
And it was just like the garden was inside. Just trying to think where the room we were in now.
It's really weird because my grandfather actually used to work here with his father, because his father used to maintain the laneways. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's always kind of been within the family. Yeah. You know, there's family history with this place because your aunts and uncles would have worked here,
and my dad's dad, John Henry, he actually opened up the front driveway, and he actually fought the court case to actually get the right of way for this house, for the back lane as well. So he actually fought that in court. So it was like there was always like a connection with this house then, like, you know. So
Because the land itself, we believe, it goes back where there's a lot that's to do with the house and do with the haunting, it's to do with the land itself. Definitely I have strong belief in that the murders that took place here and with the haunting in general, I do think that it's fueled by whatever is to do with the grounds and whatever kind of with the black dog and all this different kind of thing fuels all that.
Why do you think you and your husband have remained at this property then? Is it just a labour of love?
It's just a labour of love.
Yeah. You felt drawn to it.
Yeah, just drawn to it and just fell in love with it.
So many people have said to us over the years, why do you still remain there? Why do you
still
live
what are
there?
the common questions after you do the tours and your sort of Facebook page and stuff? What are the common questions you get asked about Sharon
Why are
Rectory?
you there? Why are you still there? That is the
People
main
say
one.
to me too, why do they live in that
Why are you
house?
still in that house? And I think it's just because we've been through so much, and you've put your heart, soul, savings, everything into it.
It's just the fact this is our home.
Yeah.
It's not it's a haunted house, but it's our home, and I don't see it as it's a haunted house. This is just my home.
Did you feel like you've been a little bit numb by it all, or do you think if something happens now, are you sort of like desensitized with it all, or do you still get creeped out? Or
sometimes if it was really extreme, it would scare me.
Yeah.
But just like seeing a shadow walking past or hearing a noise, I just ignore it.
Okay.
I think if you give it the attention, it will get worse.
Absolutely,
when you just ignore it and just let it. It stops.
Run me through a few of the sort of common occurrences here, sort of supernatural, preternatural kind of experiences.
Hearing somebody call "Mommy," but it's like that when there's nobody in the house but myself. Hearing footsteps up the back stairs, or just like seeing, you could just be coming out the kitchen and you would just see a shadow just come from here and just go straight into that room.
That's the most common. That's the stuff that you would be like, oh, there's the ghost again. Not today. But as I say, like when we get from room to room, we'll be able to explain a bit better.
Right, Emma, where are we going next?
Yeah, so we're going to go out to the reception hallway here.
Lovely.
So this particular room, this would have been known as the reception hallway. So obviously when you come in the front door, you're just straight into the reception hallway, and then you've got the library then to one side, and then you've got the living room, sitting room to the other side, and then there's the hallway, and then there's a hallway out then to the main staircase.
So who has the doll addiction?
Me.
You collect dolls?
I collect dolls, yeah.
Victorian creepy dolls?
Yep. I can't stand that. Over 100 now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
People give them to her too.
People give them to me, like, if somebody sees them in a shop, a friend of mine actually recently landed here with a bag of them for me.
Yeah.
She spotted them for me and she just, knows I collect them.
Wow.
Are you a fan of them, Emma?
No. Nobody. I'm the only person that likes them. A lot of them are broke. Because like they fall over, but I don't have the heart to throw them out.
So this, as I mentioned, there was a fire that happened here, and it was. Do you want to tell them actually? Because that night.
It was a Friday, and it was about 7:00 in the evening. We were just sitting down in this room. My other daughter Victoria was up in her bedroom with her friend, and the dog that we had at the time was actually a really good dog. If anybody was outside or if we seen anything, he would bark. It was actually she. And we were sitting in the kitchen and she kept on barking, and Vincent says to me, that must be Chloe's parents. And I opened up the window, couldn't see anybody, came back in again, continued to bark. And Vincent then he goes, I'll go out and check. So he went out and he came out up here, and he had to go outside and he could see there was actually flames coming from up here.
Wow.
And he came in and he says, the house is on fire. So I actually rang the fire brigade and said to them, like, my house is on fire. And I don't know what they said to me, but I goes, hold on, I'll go and check. Because it was just the shock of, your house is on fire. So we actually rang the fire brigade and we got Victoria and Chloe. I got the two of them outside. And once they got them outside, we came in here and it was just the shock. We were just lifting things and we were just kind of closing doors and lifting what we could. And Vincent, there was another sofa here. Vincent came down the hallway with a sofa, and I said, never mind the sofa, grab a picture. Something that's personal. So they ended up then, Vincent went outside, but I actually went back in. I came back into the house and I went upstairs into the room and I put a scarf around my face and I stayed in. I was moving things around and they were outside screaming for me, I was
living away at the time, and when Mum rang me, she did the same thing, was I have to go and check to see if the house was on fire, because when she says the house was on fire, I thought it's a small fire, maybe it wasn't never of what I thought it would be. When I pulled up to the front of the house, the whole roof in the library was just in flames at this stage.
Yeah.
And we were trying to get her out, and everybody was outside at this stage, and my dad, you know, he was taking the hose off the firemen to try and get into the house, and we were like, what is wrong? Get out here, we need to...
He actually took a heart attack. After that then there was 2 ambulances outside, and they checked and they took him in an ambulance. They said he had a mild heart attack from the shock. Yeah. But what it was up in here is a tiny little attic. Right. And the forensics was here, and they said there was wiring up in here, and it was like we would have mice, and the mice had been chewing at the wires, but it actually had been smouldering all day in the attic.
Well, where's the access to that space?
Before this was like a lot higher,
okay.
And there was a little tiny little box up there would have give you access, but you wouldn't have been able to crawl through it
And that night, there was, I think it was one of the fire crew. I think it was. I don't know if it was the chief at this stage. That came over.
One of the firemen came to me afterwards, and he says to me, was there a woman? Were you standing inside in here in the hallway? And I says, no. I says I was standing outside. He said because he'd seen a woman stand here, in the hallway, and we just assumed then it was Mrs. Waller. But they did say that later on there was a fireman that we've actually become friends with, and he had told us that that night they wanted to go down and check the cellar, but nobody would go with him. He couldn't get another fireman to go with him because they were too scared because of what they had obviously had seen.
And you know, we could have an investigation in the house and it would have been so quiet, but the next night it all kicked off. Time and time again, at night after night, I was seeing this lady, this figure coming through my room.
It's Sharon is calling back the past. You know, she seems to want the past back. You know, so to me the house is alive. Yeah. You know, the structure's alive, the land's alive.
He held on to the banister of the stairs, and he was pleading for his life at this stage because he knew it was coming to an end. Basically said, where is your victim? And they said, you know, he's on the hooves of your horses. Do you know, he was supposed to have been scattered and bounced across that patio, and he was thrown to the walls of Sharon.